Om Gyantimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam
He Krishna Karuna Sindhu
Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Desha Tarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Param Ananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bhagavad Gita Kinchadadhita Ganga Jalalavakarnika Pita Sakradeva Murari Samarcha Nakriyeta Yamina Charcha Maline Mochanam Pumsam Jalasnana Dine Dine Sakrid Gitamrita Snanam Samsara Malanashanam. Hare Krishna, thank you so much, dear worshipable devotees, for taking out your valuable time on a Saturday morning and giving your wonderful association to read, hear, and discuss Bhagavad Gita, the nectar for the soul. So we will start with text number 32. That's where we paused. 31 was the last verse we read. So we'll complete this chapter, chapter 10, entitled The Opulence of the Absolute, or in Sanskrit we call Vibhuti Yoga. V means special, Bhuti means existence or manifestations. So trying to see God by the special manifestations of the Lord's existence. And we have already discussed many. We'll discuss some more and then wrap up this chapter. So like always, if anyone wants to read, you can raise your hand and read. So it looks like Aparna Mataji is interested to read. Please go ahead. Avani?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, please.
Sargamanam adir antasha madhyam vidyan madhyam cheva marjunaha adhyatma vidyanam vadaha prabhavatat datam aham. Translation. Hare Krishna. Of all the creation, I am the beginning and the end and also the middle. O Arjuna, of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self, and among logicians, I am the conclusive truth. Back to you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Lord Krishna is Sarva Karana Karanam. as we have discussed in many, many verses. And there is a nice chart here, which is, so Krishna is the cause of all causes, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. First Balramji come, the first expansion, then the quadruple expansion, then from the Sankarshan Narayana, then the second quadruple, and the Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and the Shirodakshaya Vishnu, which are explained in this purport as well by Srila Prabhupada. So then from Shirodakshaya Vishnu is the Paramatma in every jiva, or along with every jiva, in every body, in every atom. That's the Shirodakshaya Vishnu. The Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is the super soul of the universe, and the Karanodakshaya Vishnu is the super soul of the entire creation. So the same point is being discussed. I'm the beginning, I'm the middle, and I'm the end, O Krishna, O Arjuna. And of the sciences and the spiritual science of the self, even like there are different types of science, physics, maths, chemistry, etc., etc. But the real science is the science of self-realization. Prabhupada wrote a book also, Science of Self-Realization. Because the so-called science of the material world will only help us to get some materialistic knowledge, which will only help us in the temporary world. But the science of self will free us from the cycle of birth and death. So one should, and this is real science. Krishna consciousness is Bhakti, is a science. This is very, very scientific process. And we have discussed that point also multiple times. So amongst the logicians, I'm the conclusive truth. So you want to add?
As we mentioned that there are different sciences, different subjects available, but they are actually called Jada Vidya, and they'll be destroyed with the body. The spiritual science is eternal. Therefore, Krishna is keeping that as a superior science, and so he's calling it, I am the spiritual science of the self. That is the highest or complete science, because every other thing that we may acquire will be destroyed, and we have to relearn it when we come back to the human form of life, probably. So, but the spiritual science carries on life after life and stays with us and helps us break the cycle of birth and death.
So we'll move to these verses a little quicker because there's a lot of points here and it may get a little overwhelming also. And Krishna will also say, actually, this is just very, 0.01% of my opulences, because if he continues to explain, then he'll all go to sleep. So let's read the next verse. Yes, Avani, Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna. Aksharanam akarosmi dvandva samashikasya cha aham eva kshaya kalo dataham vishvato mukha. Translation: of letters, I am the letter A, and among compound words, I am the dual compound. I am also inexhaustible time, and of creators, I am Brahma. Hare Krishna.
People, thank you so much. So, without the letter A, Prabhupada is mentioning that there can be nothing. Even if you read this Sanskrit, like look at how many times A comes. Practically in every word you will see aham, kala, or a, the small a or the a. Every shloka, any shloka you see, any word practically you see, this is just, there is no word without a, right? Or a. See, no word practically. Isn't that interesting? So basically, in life, without Krishna is there can be nothing without the touch of the Lord. All we need to do is to see the eyes, to have the eyes to see that. That's good. But is mentioning here too in text number 33, without akara, nothing can be sounded. There is always a sound a or a, right? Any word, and we just saw that, and therefore, in those who want to know, like Rama or any Sanskrit word, sound is important. It is the essence. Without that, it cannot exist. Similarly, without Krishna, there is no creation. He's a root cause. Again, the point, he is the root, he is the essence, he is the inexhaustible time of the creators I am Brahma. So many links are also given here. Even in the ABCD also, the word A is the first letter. So we can be reminded of Krishna in different ways. And in the Sanskrit language, there are different kinds of grammar, samas and shabdrup, dhaturup, etc. So amongst the samasas is a dvanda samas, or the compound words like Rama, Krishna have the same form. So anything else here? And time kills everything. No matter how big one's wealth may be, name, fame, recognition, education, knowledge, whatever, after some time it will all be gone. The world, Miss World or Mr. World 50 years back, who knows, where are they? Who are they? Are they living or gone? Time just destroys everything. Someone could have a lot of wealth, like today this person could be the world's famous, but 20 years back someone else was. Anyone knows his or her name? Probably we don't even know the name. Probably we don't even know they're living or dead. After 20 years, someone else will come, and this is the nature of time, this mrityu sarva haras chaham. We'll go to the next verse, which is very important. Yes, Vinita, Mataji, you want to read, please?
Hare Krishna. Mrityu sarva haraschaham udbhavascha bhavishyatam kirti shirirvacha narinam smritir medha tritikam shama.
Okay. I am all devouring death, and I'm the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vinita, Mataji, and third Prabhu, for so nicely reading this verse. And let Manjulali talk about this one.
So Prabhupada spoke with respect to this verse that in the material world, we see there are theists and atheists don't believe in God. So, and in our day-to-day life, we don't see the government, but we see the rules of the government. As we are crossing the traffic lights, we stop at the red light. So there's no government officials standing there stopping us, but we see the light, which is like the representative of the system, and then we follow it. So everyone sees the government indirectly all the time during a day-to-day life. Similarly, when death comes, the atheists see God as death. So all through the life, we may say God doesn't exist, God doesn't do that. But when there's sometimes severe crisis, one time Kalakanta Prabhu was telling that that in the battlefield, even if the atheist soldier will just call out in a desperate condition, when he's in a very desperate situation, he will call out, God, please help me. It's just very natural. And at the time of death, we all think of something beyond this life. And we see that horrifying form of death, death as, that's like Krishna is representing the death to the atheists. It's just like a kitten. Kitten carry, oh sorry, a cat. A cat carries a kitten in the mouth and also carries a rat in the mouth. But that same situation or position, the feeling within the kitten and the rat is very different. For rat, it's death. For kitten, it's love, security, warmth, protection of the mother. So similarly, when death approaches an atheist, it's like everything is finished. Krishna is saying, Mrityu sarva haraschaham, that everything will be taken away at the time of death. Whatever we have accumulated, whatever we have, whatever assets we have, whatever name, fame, prestige, position, anything that we have is taken away at the time of death. And even in the previous verse, Prabhupada is mentioning time is the ultimate killer. Krishna will say in the 11th chapter, Kalosmi, I'm time I am. So he takes away everything for an atheist. But for a devotee, death, at the time of death, they see Krishna. They just know it's a transition process, and we have a life with Krishna after this. So for them, it's a welcoming change. It's the end of the material life and probably the beginning of the spiritual life. And so it's a welcoming change. But for an atheist, it takes away everything that they've accumulated. And it's a very horrifying experience because an atheist is also then attached to his position, his accumulations, house, wealth, family, etc. And it's a very painful experience to give up all that. Very, very painful. So difficult to give up attachments. The pain at the time of death is because the soul has so many attachments. It's like so many tentacles, within the material society that we have. And they're just firmly gripping onto that. And it's very difficult to give up all that. That's the painful experience for the soul. It's not a very pleasant experience. So with time, we grow, we remain for some time, we produce, and then we dwindle and finally vanish. So this is the course of time. So gradually time takes away everything. It depletes everything, the youth, the strength of the body, and with death, everything is gone, whatever we have accumulated. And then Krishna is saying that I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. He's a seed-giving father for everything. Krishna is clearly stating again and again, and he will confirm that again in the 14th chapter. And he's saying, Kirti Shri Vakchanarinam Smritir Medha Dhriti Kshama. So in the women, he's saying, I'm fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. And these are all very beautiful qualities, very beautiful qualities. It makes one very attractive to people in general. When we have very fine speech, when we speak in a way which is pleasing, which is precise, concise, fine, with good voice, it attracts people. We see singers, the people are attracted to them because of their voice. If somebody is endowed with fame and fortune, it attracts people to them. In memory, women are supposed to have a stronger memory, maybe because of the emotional connections that they make, because they invest emotions in everything. So because of those emotions, the memory is sharper and focused. The men may forget certain things, certain details of a situation, but women can remember those details because of the emotions invested in that particular instance. Then if they're intelligent and steadfast and patient, these are wonderful qualities. And when we see that in any person, be it man or woman, we can think of Krishna, that Krishna is the source of all these beautiful qualities. And there's no need for us to be envious of anyone, or just feel that I don't have or this person has. It's just that Krishna has bestowed them with those qualities, and if those qualities are being utilized in Krishna's service, it's the greatest wealth, it's the greatest fortune for that person. And if not, then Krishna is saying, Mrityu sarva haraschaham, I will take away at the time of death everything that we are proud of. Gratitude.
Thank you. Maybe we can read a few lines from the purport as well, what these qualities are meaning. And Prabhupada is also clarifying, if a person possesses all of them or some of them, he becomes glorious, because these are great qualities. The ability not only to read many books or different subjects, but to understand them and to apply them, that's real intelligence. So intelligence does not mean how many verses we cram up or how many books we know theoretically. It means how much we are trying to sincerely apply, understand. So first principle is to know, to be aware, right, through learning or through class, reading, hearing. Then it goes in the head. Then we do mananam or contemplation. Okay, I heard this. How do I need to apply that? What am I doing against that principle? Or what am I doing in favor? What I need to do more of, or what I need to do less of? Then we need to do mananam. And then we need to do absorption in our heart. The knowledge comes in the heart for explanation. So we can understand and apply that, and that is real intelligence. Then the tendency, the ability to overcome unsteady nature, ups and downs in life. Tam stitikshva swabharata. This is called dhriti or dhira. Dhiras tatra namuyati. Dhira means firm or steady person is not bewildered in ups and downs in life, which will come. Health and disease, wealth and poverty, youth and old age, so many dwandas are there, or dualities, unsteady things will come. And then one has knowledge, very, very important point. Vidya dadati vinayam. One should become humble and gentle. Even one is fully qualified. Knowledge should not make one proud. Oh, I know a lot of verses. Oh, I know more than verses than she knows or he knows. So I'm a better person. If that knowledge which makes us feel that, oh, I'm better than others is actually not real knowledge. So knowledge should always make us humble. And Trinadapi Suni Chena, as we always talk, one should always consider oneself humble. Knowledge is not supposed to make us proud. Rather, it is supposed to make us humble, and so we can use it in the right way. And then the balance between ups and downs, sorrows and ecstasies is called shama, or patience. So these are the wonderful qualities shared here. So we should all try to develop, whether the women or men, both certainly should try to develop these. And these qualities, as Manjulali said, representation of Krishna. Okay, we'll read the next verse. Shubham, Prabhu, you want to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. Brihad Sama Tatha Samnam Gayatri Chanda Samaham Masanam Margasiro Shirshoham Ritunam Kusumakaraha. Translation. Of the hymns in the Sama Veda, I am the Brihad Sama, and of poetry, I am the Gayatri. Of months, I am the Marga Shirsha, November to December, and of seasons, I am flower bearing spring. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. So again, Krishna says among the Vedas and the Sama Veda, but there are different hymns in the Sama Veda. And Brihad Sam is most elevated. Again, you don't need to go in all the details, because essence of all Vedas is to know Krishna. Vedeshta sarver ahameva vidya. Vedantakrit vedavit eva chaham. So one who knows the essence of Vedas is Supreme Lord and Bhakti. That's sufficient, rather than reading 1 lakh verses of all these Vedas. So, and again, amongst the months, Margashirsha, which comes in the just before the winter kind of begins, and the spring season, which is going on right now. Some of you have spring breaks, some of you had spring breaks, but this is a very pleasant season in between the end of the winter and the onset of summer, and the flowers naturally are blossoming. And who gives them the intelligence? We were just doing a walk the other day, and we were feeling like these are some trees, like the champa flowers. They are in the same soil, the same light is there, the same sun is there, everything remains the same. But at certain point, they shed all their leaves and flowers. And again, after when the season comes, they again, the time of spring season, they again blossom. Isn't that beautiful? Like, who gave them the intelligence? How they get to know that our time to sun is pretty much the same, water, soil, everything is same. But so there is Supreme Lord running the show.
Spring is a beautiful season because it signifies new life also. Everything was lifeless in the winter, and then they come back to life, and it gives joy to the heart to see different colors. It's pleasing to the senses to see so many colors and so many varieties of flowers, insects, and everything comes to life during this particular season. So therefore Krishna is signifying that he's the spring season, and he plays a lot of different pastimes also in his eternal abode during this particular season. There are different pastimes signifying the playfulness that the Lord exhibits in this particular season.
Okay, we'll read the next one, text number 36. I'll go a little faster to complete the chapter. We have 6-7 verses left. Who would like to read this one? Karina, Mataji, want to read?
Hare Krishna, Dharma Pranam, August. Hare Krishna, Dharma Pranam, August. I'll recite this. Dyutam chala yatamasmi tejas tejas vinam maham jayosmi vyavasayosmi sattvam sattvavatamaham. Translation by His Divine Grace, Bhakti Swami Prabhupada, Srila Ki Jai. I am also gambling of cheats, and of the splendid I am the splendor. I am victory, I am adventure, and I am the strength of the strong. Hare Krishna.
Sure.
Krishna is saying here, I'm also the gambling of cheats. So among the cheating propensities, the gambling is supposed to be, I think, the topmost. But Krishna is saying that I'm the gambling of cheats. And we cannot ever cheat Krishna because he's seated in everyone's heart. And he kind of displayed it when he was in the Mahabharata war. Many times he played tricks which were considered probably immoral, but because it's done by the Supreme Lord for the supreme cause, they're absolute. There's nothing wrong with that. So Krishna did play he just played the tricks around in the war, but it was also within the codes of conduct as much as possible. That's how Krishna can do that. He can balance it. And even if Krishna lies, and Prabhupada always says that's the absolute truth still, because the dualities that we see within this world are just limited to this world only. There's truth, there's lie, there's good, there's bad, there's moral and immoral. But in the spiritual world, everything is absolute. There's no concept of moral and immoral. And even if that seems immoral, it's only to increase the love of the devotees for the Supreme Lord. So it's the justified act in one sense. Also, one time in the contemporary situation, one temple in the US, there was a guy, and he was supposed to be the treasurer of the temple, or he used to collect the funds for the temple, and he was doing this trick that he was collecting the funds, but he was doing it in such a way that he wanted to get all those money, and he used to go to very wealthy people. and they used to give very big sums, literally millions of dollars, and so much has been collected, and he was planning to all take it into his own account. But Krishna, because he's saying, I am the gambling of cheats, he cannot cheat Krishna. So he had the premature death. He died prematurely. He was young, but he died suddenly. And then everything that was collected, that he was eyeing for his own self, was actually, it was revealed that because everything was signed in the name of the temple, and everything was signed in ISKCON's name, the money came to ISKCON eventually as he died. And the temple became so rich, they actually don't have to collect funds for many, many years now, because he had collected so much wealth. And so we may be making big, big, grand plans to cheat Krishna, to cheat devotees, but Krishna knows how to intervene and make things in favor of himself. So we cannot cheat Krishna ever. And he's saying, I'm the splendid of the splendor, and I'm the strength of the strong. So everything that we see, that which is very desirable, we all want to look splendid, we all want to be called splendid, or we all want to be the strong, mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever. And that all strength is coming from Krishna. And when we see the adventure, when we go for roller coaster rides, or when we go for skiing, skating, there's a thrill. People race on the bikes because they get the thrill out of it. And that Krishna is saying that I am adventure. And the biggest adventure is actually preaching in Krishna consciousness. That's the real adventure. It's fun. It involves risk. It involves trust in Krishna, dependence on Krishna, and that is real adventure beyond the adventures of this world.
I like the point. The real adventure is Krishna reaching out to the outside, and thank you. Even in the story of Bali Maharaj and Vaman Dev came to Bali and said that, yeah, I want only 3 steps of land. And Bali said, well, really? You want 3 steps of land? You are small, your steps are small, maybe your intelligence is also small. I am such a big king. Has something big. He said, no. He gave a seminar on satisfaction. Those who are not satisfied with what they have, they will not be satisfied even if they get the 3 worlds. Okay, Baba, satisfied? You're granted, 3 steps granted. But then, Chalayasi, Bali, Vikramana, the transcendental Lord expanded himself to the size of the universe, and in 2 steps covered the whole, the lower and the upper planets. And said, Bali Maharaj, you said that you will give 3 steps, but your check bounced, balance insufficient. Right? Because everything is covered in 2 steps, but you gave 3 steps. Now there's no way where should I keep the 3rd step? So then with the Varuna Pasha, he bound Bali and took him to Sutaloka. Of course, Bali is again a great devotee. Right? But it's a beautiful form of the Lord that how, again, there's a lila behind it, but at the same time, the Lord can be the greatest triggers also. We'll read the next one. 37, anyone wants to read this text? Yes, Pooja, Mataji, please.
Brisnanam Vasudevoshmi Pandavanam Dhamnam Jaya Muninam Api Aham Vyashah Kavinam Ushana Kavi. Translation. Of the descendants of Varshni, I am Vasudeva, and of the Pandavas, I am the Arjuna, and of the sages,
I am Vyasa, and among great thinkers, I am Usana. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much again. Again, quite straightforward here is the Vrishni Vamsha Pradipa or Yadu Vamsha Pradipa. Krishna is often addressed as in the Bhagavatam, that he is the light, like amongst the Daitya, he said, I am Prahlad. So basically, he's the best of the best of whatever categories. Amongst the descendants of Vrishni, I am Vasudeva. Amongst the Pandavas, Arjuna, Dhananjaya is the name of Arjuna. So, and amongst the sages, I'm the Vyasadeva, of course, we know, gave the Srimad Bhagavatam or expanded on the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Ushana basically here refers to Shukracharya. So amongst the great thinkers, Ushana Prabhupada mentions in the purport here Ushana refers to Kavis, Shukracharya, the spiritual master of demons. He was very powerful, but of course he was not a great devotee. And there are so many pastimes, Shukracharya and Amrish Maharaj and Shukracharya, even the story of Bali Maharaj, he is present. So he's present in multiple stories, but not in a very favorable, disposed way towards Krishna. Rather, he tried to tell Bali that you don't surrender to Krishna or he will take everything away. Well, and then Bali said, well, if Krishna, he's Krishna and everything is meant to be supposed to be given to Krishna because everything belongs to Krishna. So even if he takes everything, there's no harm. But Shukracharya was not a great guru, at least in that role. He's not playing the role of an ideal guru because he had some selfish vested interest in there. Because if my disciple is poverty stricken, then for a selfish guru, he doesn't want that. He wants, as Manjulali was mentioning, he wants rich people to become his disciple, famous people to become his disciple. So, anyway, we move to the next verse. Who would like to read? Radhana Mataji, want to read?
Sure, Prabhuji. Tanto damyatam ashmi nitirashmi jigisatam monam chaivashmi guhayanam jnanam jnanavatam aham. Translation: among all means of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment, and of those who seek victory, I am morality. Of secret things, I am silence, and of the wise, I am the wisdom. Back to you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for reading this wonderful verse. Yes.
Among all means of suppressing lawlessness and punishment. So we know that if somebody breaks a law, the ultimate thing is that we give punishment. So that's why Krishna is saying that among all means of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment. That's the ultimate thing that we give. In between, there can be many things, many negotiations that we may do. And of those who seek victory and morality. So victory, which is sought by being moral in our conduct, is supreme. So therefore, Krishna is saying, of those who seek victory and morality. Prabhupada is writing, among those who are trying to be victorious in some field of activity, the most victorious element is morality. So even though sometimes we may not win, but if we have been moral, that represents Krishna. Among the confidential activities of hearing, thinking, and meditating, silence is most important, because by silence, one can make progress very quickly. So that doesn't mean that we don't speak at all and we become Moni Babas, the sages who keep vows of silence. Speaking for Krishna consciousness is also categorized as silence and not speaking nonsense. So we should be wise enough to know when to speak, how much to speak, what to speak, the attitude in which it is spoken are all very important activities, and we should know when to be silent, when to not speak unnecessarily. It's very important quality. So when we are balanced in our speaking and we speak only for Krishna consciousness, that's equivalent to silence also. And in that silence, we make progress very quickly, Prabhupada is writing. And who is the wise? Prabhupada is writing. The wise person is he who knows the distinction between matter and spirit, between God's superior and inferior natures. And one who knows this, that is wisdom, that is Krishna himself. Prabhupada is writing.
Thank you. Move to the next one, 39. Yes, Nayan Prabhu wanted to read.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, Hare Krishna. Devotees, Dandavat Pranam. Yachapi Sarva Bhutanam Bijam Tat Aham Arjuna Na Tat Asti Vina Yat Sayan Maya Bhatam Characharam. Translation by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Furthermore, O Arjuna, I am the generating seed of all existences. There is no being, moving or non-moving, that can exist without me. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, back to you. Mataji, back to
you. Prabhu, thank you so much, Prabhu. Sarva Karana Karanam. This point comes the cause of all causes. He is basically, this is the last verse amongst the Krishna's last few verses where he's just wrapping up. So in short, nothing can exist without me. Krishna is saying, nothing can exist. So that means he is the primeval, Adi Govindam Adi Purusham. He is the original cause. He is the generating principle. Without him, nothing can exist. So that is the sum and substance. He is the first or the primeval from whom everything comes, whether material, spiritual, or tatastha, or marginal, material world, spiritual world, moving beings, non-moving beings, etc., etc. Everything. So in short, devotee tries to see Krishna's hand in every aspect. Okay, we'll move to the next one. Yes, Lakshay, Prabhu, you want to read?
Nanta asti mama divyanam vibhutinam parantapa esa today's shatta prokto vibhutir vistaro maya. Translation: O mighty conqueror of enemies, there is no end to my divine manifestations. What I have spoken to you is but a mere indication of my infinite opulences. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Lakshay Prabhu. Yes.
Yes, so this Krishna began by saying that I can only tell few, because you also discussed that it's a war setting, and at the same time there are unlimited opulences. So therefore Krishna is saying what I've spoken to you is but a mere indication of my infinite opulences. So Prabhupada is writing, simply a few examples are being described to pacify the inquisitiveness of Arjuna. So that's all. Krishna just wanted to satisfy Arjuna, and he also wanted to, because he also wanted to give us the idea of how to think of him, in our day-to-day life. So by this chapter, we learn to perceive Krishna as the source of the creation, and also how to see Krishna within his own creation. And we discussed many examples throughout these verses, this chain of verses, of how when we see the ocean, or when we see the sharks, we see the fishes, or we see the birds, we can always think of Krishna. Oh, Krishna says of the birds and the beasts and the lions. In different ways, we can think of Krishna. And it's just not a mere intellectual exercise, but it requires a transformation of consciousness. It requires a special mercy, special revelation within the heart to see Krishna everywhere. And therefore, Krishna in the Chaturshloki Bhagavad Gita, in this particular chapter, he's stating that after understanding that I am the source of everything that you see, material or spiritual, the wise engages in my worship. And how do they engage in worship? By hearing about Krishna, by chanting about Krishna. And when they're doing that sufficiently, then Krishna gives the intelligence of how to come to him. So that requires revelation, and revelation comes by a sincere effort in spiritual life. So all these things, if you want to see Krishna, we can see Krishna everywhere. If we don't want to see Krishna, Krishna will give us ample reasons to not see him anywhere, even though he's present everywhere. So,
thank you. And this is kind of a summary, what next 20 to 39 or 40, and how he is just wrapping up and just sharing a few, but few are also a lot for us to even understand what to speak of, remember, right? But the whole idea is that to transcendentalize or spiritualize our eyes to see the hand or the connection of God in every aspect of creation, in every quality, in the demigods, in the sages, in the humans, in the kings, in the nature, the seasons, the water bodies, the trees, and the flowers, and the the priests, the vasus, the creators, the victory, the qualities, the strength, the animals, right? So many ways we can just see Krishna's hand in every aspect of life, in every word, in every thing. That is Krishna consciousness. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. Statam smartavyo Vishnu, vismartavyo na jatu chit sarve vidhi nishedasyo etayo eva kinkara. The essence of all rules and regulations is to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. And that's how Krishna is kind of teaching us how to always remember. But very important point, that does not mean that everything is Krishna. And what he was sharing, I think we discussed in the last time also, that when Hiranyakashipu broke that pillar, Prahlad had full faith. He asked, hey, is Narshing Dev your God in this pillar? He said, yes, he's everywhere. He with full faith. And then there was a fight, we all know, Narsingadev came. And when Prahlad went to garland, did he garland the pillar or did he garland Narsingadev? He garlanded Narsingadev, right? So that's also we have to see to that they are representations of the Supreme Lord. That does not mean that they are the Supreme Lord. They are Mama Amsha. They are my energy. For example, we discussed the example of Prime Minister and Prime Minister's certain energies, like Prime Minister's car, right? If someone has to welcome Prime Minister, they'll garland the Prime Minister, not the Prime Minister's car, right? So, yet at the same time, they will give proper respect to Prime Minister's car also, because that's the energy or kind of representation of the Prime Minister. Okay, we'll move on to the next one, 41. Very, very important verse. I would like to read this. Yes, Arundhati Mataji, please.
Yad vibhutamat sattavam srimad arjunam evava tat eva gaccha tam mana teja sma sambhavam. Translation and done by Divine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creation spring from but a spark of my splendor. Thank you.
Krishna. Thank you so much. In just last few verses, Lord Krishna is wrapping up. Yad yad vibhuti. Wherever, whatever and wherever you see anything special, vibhuti, special opulence, special existence, special manifestation, mat sattvam. It is my existence only. In my existence, Srimat. The Sri is beautiful. Urjita. Urjita is glorious or opulent. Tat tat evavagachatvam. That know that for certain that yad yad tat tat. So this comes multiple times. Whatever and tat tat, all that. So know that it is mama tejo amsa. Amsha. Amsha means part. Amsha means it is born of my part. So in short, I am the cause of all causes. So we can always remember that, as we just discussed, whether we see living or animate, inanimate qualities, people, seasons, weather. And we saw a nice video also last time, if you remember. So the idea is to connect to God, to develop the eyes to see God in every aspect.
So one time, Prabhupada was visiting America for his preaching tours, and it's a very famous pastime. And that time, as Prabhupada was traveling the world, devotees were joining in the temple, but they never saw Prabhupada in person. And so this particular congregation was very excited, and there was a monk in that congregation who had not seen Prabhupada. They went to airport to receive Prabhupada, and everybody was eagerly waiting, chanting, dancing, just waiting when the Prabhupada, deboard the plane. And before Prabhupada came the air hostess, and air hostesses are supposed to be decked up and all beautiful and perfect. And so this monk got attracted by this air hostess, and he was looking. As she was walking, he was just looking, his eyes following the direction of the air hostess. And suddenly Prabhupada came in front of the eyes of that monk. And then Prabhupada said, "Isn't she beautiful?" And he couldn't say yes, because if he says yes, it's so embarrassing. Monk is not supposed to look at the women. And if he says no, that will lie to the spiritual master. So it was a very difficult situation. He didn't say anything, he just kept mum. And Prabhupada said, just imagine, if she's so beautiful, how beautiful Krishna is, how beautiful Srimati Radharani is. So therefore Krishna is saying, whatever we see around in the world is just a spark of his own splendor. We may see beautiful hair, and some people have very beautiful hair, some people have beautiful complexions, some people have beautiful eyes, hands, whatever. We can always remember that how beautiful Srimati Radharani would be, or how beautiful Krishna would be, if we are attracted by the things of this world. Because the source or the creator is always superior than the creation. So you can just imagine how beautiful they must be, or in the spiritual world, everybody would be. In Gopakumar's story, Gopakumar was first given the entrance into Vaikuntha. So he was supposed to go to Lord Narayan's abode, and he was brought on the airplane, and the Vishnu Dutas, the messengers of the Lord, said, "You wait here at the gate, we will inform the Lord, and we'll be back shortly." But in that time, as Gopakumar was waiting, people were coming in, and everybody who would come in would be like so beautiful, like Lord Vishnu, and they would come on their airplanes, special celestial airplanes. Gopakumar would go like, "Oh, this must be Lord Vishnu," and he would just go around. He would just start offering prayers, and then they would say, "Vishnu, Vishnu, Vishnu. We are not Lord Vishnu. We are just the citizens of this particular plane." And the next person would come, and he would think, "Oh, this person is more beautiful than the previous one. He must be Lord Vishnu." And he would start offering the prayers, and then they would say, "No, we are not, we are not." And they would go in. So like that, every time Gopakumar met the residents of Vaikuntha, he was like, "This must be Lord Vishnu. It is so beautiful." And then how much beautiful Lord Vishnu must be. because they all had their own entourage and airplane, just like Lord Vishnu in the Vaikuntha planet.
Thank you so much. So we'll move on to the last verse of this chapter, text 10.42. Who would like to read? There's no good chance here. Yes, Shubha, would you please?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Atava bahunaitena kim jnatena tavarjuna vistabhyaham idam kratsnam krishnam ekam sena stito jagat. Translation by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada ki jai. By what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. Should I read Prabhuji?
Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you for reading this last verse. Ultimately, what is the use of knowledge? Is to come to the essence that Krishna, Supreme Lord, is the cause of all causes. Bhoktaram Yajnatapasam is the supreme proprietor, supreme owner. And this is just a very tiny fragment, all this actually. Because as we know, when in Mahavishnu or Karanodakshaya Vishnu, when he breathes, and it's not that he's putting a lot of endeavor to create these universes. Just by mere breathing, unlimited universes from unlimited pores of his unlimited size body are coming out. And all what we were talking here pretty much was in just one universe. So you can see that in just one tiny universe, there is so much 14 planetary systems, demigods and whatnot. And then like that, there are zillions and zillions and trillions of such universes and trillions of such creations, material, spiritual. So in short, we cannot fathom through the infinitesimal intelligence cannot fathom about the infinite Lord and infinite qualities, as he said, infinite vibhutis. But all we have to know, Krishna is the cause of all causes, and the goal of life is to serve him. Man mana bhav mad bhakto. This is the essence of this chapter, and therefore we use the acronym SEE, S-E-E. In the first 7 verses, we talk about the source of everything, that everything comes from him. Then the next 4 verses are the core verses of Bhagavad Gita, and the core verses are in this 10th chapter, which we discuss in great detail. So I will again show them. So because they are the core verses, talk about the Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan. The 8th verse talks about that who is the Supreme Lord, referring to that Am Sarvasya Prabhu Matta Sarvam Pravartate, talking about the relationship. He's the Supreme Lord, Supreme Proprietor, Supreme Master. So, in a very, very scientific process also. That's how the sadhana bhakti begins. We have a hypothesis, then we do the experimentation, the process, under the guidance of Guru Sadhu Shastra. And what is that process? Machchata madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayanta shamam nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. To talk about Krishna, to remember Krishna, to do Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Padasevaram, Dasyam, Sakhyam, etc. The Navadha Bhakti process under Guru Sadhu Shastra. Then the conclusion happens. In science, the conclusion or the result or the prayojan, use different words. We get the sadhya, we get Krishna, we get Bhagavan. All the ignorance is destroyed by the lamp of knowledge. And Tesham stata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvaka. When we do priti purvaka bhakti or bhajan, and he will give the right intelligence with which we can approach him. He will uproot all the darkness and give us pure love of Godhead. And the last verse 12 to 42, which we just have been discussing, and many aspects of Krishna's creation, how we can try to see the hand of God in each and every aspect of life and to remember him. So this is chapter 10, entitled Vibhuti Yoga. By seeing the Vibhuti, the point is not like the air hostess be carried away, or when we see someone's intelligence, balam or strength, not be carried away, but to connect that. Oh, if the creation is so beautiful, how beautiful the creator must be. Rather than feeling, oh, I should also have that. Oh, being envious, jealous, etc. They're trying to, oh, this is Krishna's hand behind. Without Krishna's hand, Arjuna said, when Krishna winded up his pastime, the same Arjuna, the same Gandhi, with the same chariot, the same everything, but he had no strength. So without Krishna's blessing, we are like a word cannot exist without the letter or the sound Similarly, without Krishna's blessings, we are lifeless. He can take, right? He can take that switch. He can turn that switch off if we think we are proud. If we think we are if he thinks we are not using the opportunity in the right way, then he will take that opportunity. So we should always be grateful and remember the hand of God in every aspect of our life and around us as well. So this is chapter 10.
So we see Atlas, and Atlas is actually very tired carrying the earth, the burden of the earth. That painting is very famous. Krishna is here saying, with a single fragment of mine, I sustain everything and supporting everything. So it's like a child's play for Krishna. We have all seen as children make blocks of buildings with their little blocks, and they make it and then they destroy it and they make it again. And it's such a fun thing for them. They just keep doing it many times and they do it every day, but they don't get bored. So something like it's like for Krishna, and it's very easy for him to create, and then it's also very easy for him to annihilate. It doesn't require the destructive processes that we see, or the effort that we put in to create our skyscrapers. It takes so many months to create skyscrapers. For Krishna, it's just just very easy. It's just in a minute. As soon as he desires, he can activate the material nature to create whatever he wants. And therefore, Krishna is saying, with a single fragment of mine, I'm pervading everything. It's just easy, very easy breezy for Krishna.
Thank you. Let's take some thoughts, comments, reflections, or questions, if anyone has, on this chapter or otherwise as well. Please feel free to share your thoughts or any questions you may have. Priya and Jyoti Mataji, where are you joining from? Which part of the universe? Sorry, we couldn't hear you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, she's my bua from India.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And I think your other relatives were also here, like Sunny. They got bored with our and they left early. Just kidding.
No,
Thank you. Thank you for inspiring everyone and encourage. Thank you, Priya Mataji, Puja Mataji, for taking your time to join. Okay, so maybe Shilpa Mataji, you had something to share, please.
Yeah. Thank you so much for today's class, Prabhuji and Mataji. Thank you so much. Mataji very well explained on how to see within the woman, the nature of the woman compared to the man. Very well explained. Thank you so much. Learned a lot. And I have a small question on how to take, or how to not react, but how to take. Like in everything there is Krishna, right? That's how we need to see. If it is a fruit like a banana, the smell a banana, so sweet, right? So within that also we see Krishna, flower, so fragrance. Within that also it's from Krishna. So how beautiful would Krishna be, right? That is very well explained. Thank you so much. Um, but how would we take anger in another person? You know, I know, I understand that there is that anger is also Krishna. Should we take like anger is also Krishna? Ultimately, I think the reaction is we should stay stable, not react to that anger. But how, if you can more add more on how to, maybe 2 sentences.
Krishna will say in the 16th chapter that lust, anger, greed are actually gateway to hell. Anger is usually arises because of our lust is not satisfied. Lust means that our desires are not satisfied, or our false ego is not satisfied. That's when we get angry. And Grace Veshika Prabhu always says that whatever situation we may be in, we can always ask what is the lesson in it. And as Prabhupada is writing that when we tolerate, that's patience, and that patience is very pleasing to Krishna, or that tolerance is very pleasing to Krishna. Krishna talks about tolerance in many verses throughout the Bhagavad Gita till the end. Talks about tolerance, that we have to tolerate. So there'll be provoking situations, as Prabhupada writes. The greatness of a man is tested in times of provoking situations, circumstances. So how we respond to it would be more important or vital in that sense. Of course, we can always think if we did anything really wrong on our part, which made that person upset, we can reflect on that aspect. And if we try to do our best and that person is still angry, that's okay. I mean, we can only control what we can control, and that's our own self. We cannot control anyone for that matter. But for anger towards our dependents is okay. Like, for example, sometimes mother may get angry at children, and there's no false ego. She only wants best for the child. Or a guru may get angry at a disciple. They only want best for the disciple. That's why they're getting angry. And at that time, we should be, as a disciple, we should feel fortunate that we are getting that chastisement, even though it may hurt us at that moment. But later on, we will realize that it's something that's for our good. Just as a child realizes later, yes, my mom scolded me, but it was for my own good. So there has to be that balance, why that person is getting angry and what is the relationship with that person. If that person is a superior, we take it in a positive manner, even though it may hurt us. But gradually, as time will pass, we will realize that it was for our own good. And if that person is someone else equal or junior and they're getting angry, that for us, it's important to just respond positively and do our best so that we can represent Krishna very well. And Krishna will also give us strength to endure it and give us realizations as we try to please him in that circumstance. And there's something else I was saying that I forgot. Anyone you want to add?
Is it Krishna also within that person causing anger, or no? Is it Krishna the anger, or
yes, you can say in the sense that our spiritual master Radhanath Maharaj always says that we always pray to be humble. We always pray that I should be humble, I should be tolerant like a grass, but when such opportunities come, we actually retaliate. Oh, why that person is getting angry on me? But Maharaj also had very difficult situations, and he would always see, oh, this is just an instrument of Krishna to test me, or to give me this quality of humility, or to give me this quality of tolerance. So that just an instrument of Krishna to test me or to make me a better person. So in that light, you can see it as Krishna. Radhanath Maharaj always sees in that way.
And also, we have to remember that Krishna Surya Sama Maya Hoy Andhakar, Yaha Krishna Ta Nahi Maya Radhikar. When we are facing Krishna, who is like the sun, we don't see shadow. Shadow comes when we turn our face away from Krishna. Shadow here represents darkness or bad qualities. So we can also try to see that, and we should be see that this person is apparently getting angry on me due to whatever reason. We can try to connect to Krishna that this is the absence of Krishna consciousness. So absence of Krishna consciousness will lead to impure qualities or lower modes. One time someone asked, how can we use lust, anger, greed, etc., the bad qualities, the bad desires, let's say the bad, how can we use bad desires in Krishna's service? You say everything can be used in Krishna's service? His Holiness Ratanath Maharaj replied, by giving them up. So we can use the bad desires in Krishna's service by giving them up. So, and Bhagavatam gives the examples. Anger and the bad qualities come from the back part of Brahma, right? So the Brahma is a secondary creator. Krishna says among the Tritra I am Brahma. He's given the responsibility of creation. This comes in the second canto, Visarga. And also there's a beautiful story of how Duryodhana expressed anger to Vidura. And he say, hey, you son of the maid servant, get out of here. How Vidura was equipoised. The words specifically used, like let's say if someone is lying in the gutter, completely intoxicated, right? Like completely intoxicated, the mind is crazy, they don't know what they're talking, and that's what anger is, right? Anger, when anger is there, intelligence is lost, right? This comes in the 2.63 words of Bhagavad Gita also, that Dhyayato Vishayan Pumcha Sangasti Shubha. Sangat Sanjayate Kama, Kamat Krodho Vijayate, Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha, Sammoha Smriti Vibramaha, Smriti Brahmasad Buddhi Ka Nash, Buddhi Nashat Pranashati. So intelligence is lost, one does not know what's one speaking. Therefore, one starts shouting, and the person is only 2 feet away. There's no need to shout technically, right? The person can easily hear. It's just 2 feet away, but the person is shouting it, like, to express anger, because intelligence does not work. So what Vidura is teaching there, like a drunkard speaks mad words, a sober person will not take them seriously. So we should see this person, rather than being angry upon, like rather than being tit for tat, we should just maybe leave that situation, or because at that point the person will not hear. Vidura just left the situation being equipoised. This is absence of Krishna consciousness, and pray for them that may Krishna also give them the right intelligence and the right buddhi so they can also remember Krishna. And then what will happen? All the Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati, when a person does unalloyed bhakti, all the divine qualities will come and the darkness will go away. As we just read in the 10th chapter, the 10th canto of this 11th chapter, 10th chapter, 11th verse. I dwelling in their heart, destroying with the shining lamp of knowledge, the darkness born of ignorance. Anger is also one of those darkness, is it not? The bad qualities. So we should also see that this is the absence of Krishna consciousness, and that's why this person is reacting the way he or she is reacting like this. So we can be Krishna conscious even at that time.
Got it, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So anger, greed, and what are the others that you
Lust, anger, greed are primarily mentioned.
Got it.
But there are others also. The lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, illusion. This kama, lobha, moh, mad matsarya.
Okay.
But anything negative quality, vengeance, revenge, fault finding, etc. Anything negative we can see is basically because of absence of Krishna consciousness or absence of bhakti. The more one is Krishna conscious, the less negative qualities they will have. The one and vice versa.
Got it, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Vipul, thank you for
Thank you,
your
Mataji.
thoughtful question. Anything else before we pause? Or do you want to hear a story? Or Mataji has a question? Yes, to share Mataji. Yeah, please.
Not
Nandi.
question, Prabhuji. So I like Mataji's explanation about the verses that is on Sri Bhak, all the qualities of good qualities of women. So because if we see anybody is good in memorizing or good in preaching, so don't be envious or disappointed, because we have to change the vision that all are the good qualities of Krishnas. Think about that way. So thank you, Mataji, because I have that problem also. I asked that same question Shubha's a few days before. So thank you so much, Mataji.
Krishna's mercy.
Yes, Karina Mataji, you had a thought on something? Want to hear story?
I wanted to hear a story, Prabhuji.
Okay, last few minutes we'll tell a special story from the mouth of Lord Shiva to Parvati. He's speaking about this. The Lord Shiva is telling Parvati, "Oh dear Parvati, please hear the glories of the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita very carefully, because you will be surely filled with wonder." So basically, all of us will be filled with wonder if we hear this story very carefully. So as you know, Lord Shiva is completely fixed in the meditation of Lord Krishna and those who love Krishna, that means his devotees. And he says that they are the same, the others who do the same are my life and soul. Wow. Krishna is saying that, Lord Shiva is speaking that devotees are my life and soul. So Krishna and devotees are the life and soul of great devotees. Vaishnavanam yatha shambhu. One such devotee was Dhira Buddhi. Dhira Buddhi. So Lord Shiva is talking about this Dhira Buddhi, who was very steady. Dhira means steady. In his glorification for Lord Krishna. That I was completely won over by him. Lord Shiva is speaking this. And with much love, I followed his movements, protected him, and attended his needs wherever I could, just like a humble servant. Isn't that beautiful? Lord Shiva became the servant of Dhira Buddhi because Dhira Buddhi was very steady in his glorification to Lord Krishna. Wow. Everyone is trying to approach Shiva and other demigods, but Shiva became devotee of. Seeing all this, my eternal servant, Bhringi Riddhi. So this is Shiva's servant, Bhringi Riddhi, two names, Dhira Buddhi, Krishna's servant, Bhringi Riddhi, was overcome by curiosity and asked, "My dear Lord," Bhringi Riddhi is asking to Lord Shiva, "please tell me the history and the special qualities of this devotee that you are taking such pleasure in serving." So basically he's asking about whom? Dhira Buddhi. Responding to the question, I replied, "Some time ago in Kailash, I was sitting in a flower garden during the evening. The moon was shining brightly and it was very peaceful. Suddenly, a strong, violent wind appeared from nowhere, shaking the trees and making frightful disturbances. A huge shadow moved overhead, darkening the sky. Dust and leaves swirled around my feet, and looking up, I saw a great swan bird descending towards me. It was blackish in color." So this Lord Shiva is speaking about the story about the swan who came, the black swan. And its wings noisily churned the air as it landed in front of me. The bird had a beautiful pink lotus flower in its beak. So the swan was carrying this lotus flower, which it offered to me, referring to Lord Shiva. Then to my surprise, the bird spoke. It is said, "O Mahadev," bird is speaking this, "you are the greatest of all the Vaishnavas, Vaishnavanam yatha shambhu. You possess unlimited glories and are very kind friend to all living beings. You are especially merciful to the pure devotees. The high priest of gods, Brihaspati, always glorifies you with sweet words of prayer. And Anantashesha, the 1,000-headed celestial serpent, cannot find an end to your glories. What to speak of myself, an insignificant bird with limited intelligence? Being pleased by the submissive words of the swan, I inquired from it, "Who are you and where are you from?" What she was asking the swan. "You appear to be a giant swan, but your feathers are bluish black like that of a crow. Please explain everything to me." The swan replied, "Thank you, Mahadev. I'm actually the carrier of Lord Brahma, and I will now tell you how I became this blackish color. The heavenly lotus flower that I just offered to you came from a beautiful lake near Surat. One day while flying over that lake, my wings became paralyzed and I fell down into the water. I then discovered, how much to my surprise, that my snow white body had turned as black as dark clouds. Swans are generally white. You may have seen in Brahma's carrier, actually the word Lufthansa Airlines, you have heard Lufthansa Airlines? This comes from that only. Luft in German means air. Hamsa means the carrier. So Luft, swan, the Brahma's carrier. So Lufthansa, Lufthansa, that comes from Brahma's carrier. They're white, but because the swan was paralyzed and then went into the lake, and then she got this dark black body. As I looked around in shock, a mysterious voice arose from a group of exquisitely beautiful lotuses in the center of the lake. It's very transcendental. The swan is speaking, the lotuses are speaking, everyone is speaking. Very transcendental place. "Oh swan, come here, and I will tell you why." Long story, a little bit, but we'll complete it. "Why you fell and became black," said the voice. I quickly swam closer to the lotuses and then magically changed into the form of a beautiful woman. The swan turned into a woman. Okay, let me read. As I looked around in shock, a mysterious voice from a group of exquisitely beautiful lotus in the center of the lake. "Oh swan, come here, and I will tell you why you fell." So I quickly swam closer to the lotuses, and they magically, so the lotuses turned into the beautiful form of a woman. From her mouth drifted a powerful and fragrant scent. I saw thousands of bees come from all directions and swarm around her. Her here is a lady, or the girl who was transformed from the lotus, as if she were the queen of all flowers, because the bees are surrounded to the flowers, right? By the power of that scent, the bees were immediately sent to the heavenly realm. The mysterious woman smiled and explained, "O king of birds," referring to the swan, "because of the offense of flying over me, you fell and became black. Out of pity, I called you here. As for these bees, I will tell you the reason I have such power. 3 lifetimes ago, I took birth in a Brahmana family and was named Saroj Vadana. Saroj Vadana. This girl is describing her story. My father married me to a strict husband whom I served faithfully. One day I found a sick black bird and took care of it. I became very fond of that bird, and as a result, the service too, my husband suffered." Basically, she got attached to the bird but ignored the husband. He became most frustrated and in a fit of anger caused me to become a blackbird in the next life. This happened and due to some good karma, I was taken care of by some holy men who kept me at their ashram. Twice a day, they would chant, now that's the essence. Twice a day, they would chant the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and I would listen attentively. So this is the beauty of the 10th chapter, which we just come, Vibhuti Yoga. There is this resulted in me being elevated to the heavenly planets in my following life, that's the next life, where I assumed the form of an Apsara by the name of Padmavati. I enjoyed life there and often traveled in my flower aeroplane. One day I flew over an enchanting lake filled with fragrant lotus flowers. I descended, desiring to refresh myself in the clear, inviting waters. Casting off my clothes, I entered those waters and splashed about it in great happiness. But as chance would have it, the short-tempered sage, Durvasa Muni, happened to pass by and saw me naked. Out of fear, I immediately turned myself into 5 lotuses. My legs and arms became 4 lotuses, and my body and head became the 5th. That fiery sage could not tolerate what he saw, so angrily he cursed me. You sinful creature, may you remain as you are for 100 autumns. He then continued on his way. Further, fortunately, I was able to remember my previous life as a blackbird and also the words of the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. This gave me strength over passing years. Today, the curse has ended, and by the coincidence, you flew over me. But I am sure that if you learn the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita from me, then you will be freed from this embarrassing situation. Please do this. I readily agreed, and she taught me those divine verses originally spoken by Lord Krishna. Then, as a sky chariot came and took Padmavati to Vaikuntha, I have just come from there now to offer you a flower from that lake. Lord Shiva concluded, having taken my darshan, the black swan gave up his body and took birth in the Brahmana family as Dhira Buddhi, who then became the devotee of Krishna, who Shiva was serving, who was a very pure heart, who with a very pure heart always chants the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. His chanting is so powerful that whoever hears it, whether they are drunkards or murderers, will certainly be blessed by the darshan of Lord Krishna. The same can be said for anyone and everyone whoever chants the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. They will certainly obtain the same result, regardless of who they are. So beautiful story. Yes, Karina, could you please?
As you could see, Prabhuji, I have the same book and I was reading and I already know this story from reading it.
Very bold. It's wonderful. Yes, Ravi Prabhu, I have to share something.
Can I speak something?
Yeah, after Ravi Prabhu.
Okay.
Prabhuji, it was just coming to my mind that all the vibhuti is coming from Krishna. So I was thinking like the practical application, since we are trying to be a devotee and there are so many people around us. So if we can reflect on this, everything that we use, if it is coming from Krishna, we need to moderately use it so that we don't waste it. That in turn will be so helpful for the current environment and the crisis that we are facing. That is one way of also applying the Vibhuti Yoga according to my understanding. So please add on to that, Prabhu. Is it something that we should also reflect on? With, like the water, the heat. Like, being in this country, we are always extra large. Anything that we take, extra large. Do we really need it? So that's something waste of the Krishna's resources. And I think last class you mentioned about when Prabhupada was walking and then one hose was, water hose was leaking, and he was very much concerned about that. So all that I was putting it together. So that's all for.
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct. One time I left the light on in the room and I went out. My wife, Manjulali Priya, shared a story with me of Prabhupada. And she was telling that one time a devotee left the light on, the fan on. In Mayapur, they left the fan on and they came out of the room. And Prabhupada said, "Who is that rascal who left the fan on and they came out?" So Indirectly, she's trying to help me. So yes, absolutely. Everything. The definition of spirituality is to understand the purpose of each and everything is Krishna's creation, and it must be used for the right purpose. To use the things for the purpose they are intended is also spirituality. Like a pen has a purpose, a tube light has a purpose, and things like that. So we should be very judicious, and we should be very careful that we should not waste or take it for granted. Like in here, like I go to sometimes like office lunch. Here it is said that if they don't leave something on the plate, if they eat everything, it is considered like they are stingy and miserly. They have to leave something. And they take like big whatever the food and leave half, which goes in the garbage, right? Millions of people are hungry. The food is not supposed to be thrown in the garbage. And then that's true for any other resource, whether it's light or water or clothes or gadgets, or we should use it from the right purpose which they're intended, in the right quantity, balance, yukta hara viharasya. And that's respect to Krishna. Otherwise, if we take it for granted, then Krishna will not bless us with those. And it's very natural, like a father gives some facility to the child, but if the child takes it for granted and misuses that, then the father will say, no, you don't deserve that. You are not qualified to use it for the right purpose. I gave you this facility, but you misused this, or you didn't utilize for the right cause. Now I will take it like a phone. The father gave the child a phone, but if the child is misutilizing it or overutilizing it or getting distracted in other things, the father will say, no, you don't deserve it. You're not qualified to use the phone in the right way. So let me take it back. So Krishna will do the same. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, Aparna Mataji, you had some thoughts.
Thank you, Prabhuji, Mataji.
I don't have in such invoice like both of you, a total storage of knowledge, but I just can't reflect anything. Today it is Vikrami Samvat, start of new year, and happy Navratri to all Vaishnavas who are sitting. Happy Navratri to all of you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Same to you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, and we know it's a little over time. Sorry for the delay, but we will pause here, and next week we'll continue with the new chapter, chapter 11, the universal form. Bhagavad Gita Upanishad ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyo Vacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you so much. Hari Bol.
Thank you,
Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.